Hello everybody and welcome back to Cities Skylines with Splatt. Today we're talking about mods. I use quite a few mods when I play this game, and I have selected 10 that I think would be very useful for anybody who wants to play this game. So let's get started and get right into 10 mods that you don't want to miss when you play Cities Skylines. And starting out our list today at number 1 is the Move It mod by Cuboid, available on the Steam Workshop. This is probably the number 1 most important mod that I use every day when I'm playing Cities Skylines. This park that you see in front of you would not be possible without making extensive use of the Move It mod. Alongside the Move It mod, there is a smaller category of mods known as the Anarchy mods, and one of those is called Prop and Tree Anarchy, and I use that one in conjunction with the Move It mod to accomplish some really amazing detailing feats. So what is the Move It mod and how exactly does it work? So I have brought you over here to this beautiful pond to give you a better idea of how the Move It mod works. Let's say I want to add a pier to my pond. Normally I would go down to my Parks and Plaza tool and I would click on the pier number 1 and I would just bring it up here and I would kind of line it up a little bit, but I would just plunk it down right there. We now have a beautiful pier in our park. But the problem is, if you look at where the step in the ground is, you would have to be an NBA player or perhaps Andre the Giant in order to reach high enough to actually get up on the boardwalk. The Move It mod can help us fix that. If I push M on the keyboard, I can highlight this pier and it turns green. I can now use the page up and page down buttons in a very similar fashion to what you can do with roads to raise it and lower it. And you can see I can lower it down to where it lines up with the grass. Now maybe I want this pier to actually line up better with the path. I can do that too. If I left click on it, I can drag it around and move it wherever I want. And I can even right click on it to swing it back and forth. And so using a little bit of my patented Scoochie action, as Scoochie is the finest thing that anybody playing this game would ever wear, I can pull the pier around until I get it exactly where I want, and then the Move It mod helps me make beautiful things. Now I've brought you over to this other pond because I want to illustrate to you how you can use the Move It mod alongside a wide range of tools called the Anarchy mods to achieve some really amazing results. One of the Anarchy mods that is out there is called Prop and Tree Anarchy, and this works very well hand in hand with Move It by allowing you to place assets, props, and different buildings anywhere you want, irregardless of what's already there, or if there's water in the way or what the grid is telling you. So the way this works is normally, if I was trying to put a tree in this water to create a swamp effect, it wouldn't allow me to do it because the water is in the way. I can illustrate that by going down to my tree tool, picking one of these cypress trees, and trying to put it in. And you can see that it gives me a red circle and it says cannot build on water. Now if I push Control P, that turns on Prop and Tree Anarchy. And this allows me to put this tree anywhere I want, regardless of what's already in the way. And this is a way that you can get some really neat effects. Another example of this would be all of the rocks that you see around the edge of this pond. I wouldn't be able to put these rocks the way I did if I wasn't using the Move It mod to rotate them and get different angles alongside the Prop and Tree Anarchy mod to allow me to cause the rocks to overlap a little bit so I don't have unusual looking gaps. Another very useful part of the Move It mod is your ability to select multiple things at once. If I push M on the keyboard to bring up my Move It mod, you will see down here on the bottom right that I have a single selection mode, which allows me to choose one thing at a time just to move it around. But I also have this thing called the Marquee Selection tool. And if I drag a box, I can select multiple things at once, and I can either delete those things, I can move those things around, or I could rotate those things. Now let's say I only wanted to choose the trees in this area. I do not want to select any of the buildings. That's easy. All you have to do is go over to the filter that's built into Move It mod and double click on trees. And now when I draw my marquee tool, it's only going to select the trees in the area where I chose. This is a great way if you want to copy and paste a set of trees and move it around without getting anything else, or if there's a forest that you want to just suddenly select a large area of and use this little tool down here to bulldoze and delete those items. The Marquee Selection tool is an amazing time saver, and I think everybody should give it a go. So I've brought you over here to this flat piece of land with a crooked road on it because I want to show you another great part of the Move It mod tool set. When you're building roads and pathways, the Move It mod is a great way to finesse things around and make them look beautiful. If, for example, you had a road like this one where it's kind of got these crazy little kinks in it and it's not very nice looking and very straight, using the Move It mod, you would be able to come in and choose each individual node on the road, and you could move those nodes around however you wanted to. So let's say I wanted this road to be straight, I could actually come in here and grab the nodes, and one at a time, I could move these things around and not have to demolish and rebuild anything. Another thing that you could do with the Move It mod is if you have a road that needs to move, let's say you have a building that's next to it, you want to move your road a little bit closer to the building because you have a gap. As long as you hold down the shift button, you can select multiple nodes, and then you can grab it and you can move the entire thing around wherever you want it to go. You can use the arrow keys to move it by segment, left, right, up, and down. And you can even grab in between the nodes to bend roads to look any way that you wanted. So going back to a nice and crooked road like this, maybe I want this road to look a little bit nicer. I wish this road had a better curve to it. So I could actually grab these little segments and I could start to bend these around to try to make it look a little bit smoother and just look a little bit more natural. And voila, with just a little bit of scoochie with the Move It mod, I now have a nice sweeping curve in my road. Now that we've looked at that one, let's jump over to this abomination that I've built over here. This is one of my favorite parts of the Move It mod when it comes to transportation. Let's say you have a road that has all kinds of different heights in it, and you wish this looked a lot smoother and had a much better slope to it. Well, the Move It mod has you figured out. All you have to do is activate the Move It mod, go ahead and select your nodes. So starting here, 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 and here. And then going into the extra tools that you have in the Move It mod, you have something called slope objects. And if you click on that, it's going to calculate the distance between the highest point and the lowest point of your pathway. And it's going to try to smooth out the slope a little bit for it to work. There you go. So now, instead of this being this janky elevation, it smoothly elevates from the lowest point all the way up to the highest point. But let's say you've got a roadway that you wish it was all the same height. You've built it and part of the road is higher than other parts of the road, and parts of the road are lower than other parts of the road. Well, that's easy to fix too. All you have to do is choose the nodes that you want to change. So I want all of these nodes to be the same height as the lowest part of this road. So I'm going to choose all of these nodes that are too high, and then I can come over here to the toolbox and I could choose to object height. I click on that and then I choose the object that I want it to match. I want it to match this node right here on the left. So if I click on it, it automatically lowers everything down to match the height of the thing that I clicked on. This is super useful when you're putting in key walls and seawalls, because a lot of times when you're putting those in on the waterfront, the game does not always build them extraordinarily straight and they can look really wonky, and this is a fast way to just quickly straighten everything out. The Move It mod has many other tools at your disposal, and you're going to have a lot of fun playing with them. You have all kinds of things available to you, and I would recommend giving it a look. So the Move It mod by Cuboid is probably my #1 go-to mod when I'm building a city. Check it out. It'll be worth your time. Coming in at number 2 on my list of 10 amazing mods for Cities Skyline is Traffic Manager President Edition. This is a mod available on the Steam Workshop by the creator KRZYCHU1245. I love this mod because it takes traffic, which in the vanilla game is more of a hindrance that kind of holds you back from building the city that you want, and changes it into a fun and engaging part of the process with a lot of flexibility on how you want to handle things in a much more realistic manner. One of the things that I like is the ability to add timed traffic lights, which are so much more intelligent than the vanilla ones that come with the standard game. This intersection is a perfect example of that. A roundabout just wouldn't fit here and wouldn't be the right kind of fix for the problems that I was having. When these cars are trying to get off of the highway, there's often too much traffic on this main 4-lane road going through the center of town to allow them to pull out, and so things back up onto the highway. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and clicked on the little traffic light icon that appears when you install Traffic Manager, and I've opened up the toolbox, and I have chosen this tool called the Timed Traffic Lights. Now, if you want to, you can just hold down the control button on your keyboard and you can click on an intersection, and it will set up a fairly intelligent traffic light that works well in 90% of the situations that you're going to need it in. But you can also go in here and you can actually customize these traffic lights to do exactly what you want. You can set them up with a minimum amount of time that they stay green and a maximum amount of time that they stay green. You can set up crosswalks for people to go back and forth across the street. You can set up turning lights. You can set up all kinds of different things. I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of technical detail on this because it's just kind of fun to play with on your own or to check out a YouTube video specifically designed to teach you how these work. But I'm just trying to highlight how this tool is so important to being able to build the city that you want and not the city that you have to build because of the AI traffic in the vanilla game. Another super useful tool that comes along with Traffic Manager is the ability to control lane changing and tell the cars exactly where they can go and where they are not allowed to go. So opening up Traffic Manager, there is this tool in here called the Lane Connector. And I love using this to fix some of the stupid things that the AI does in this game. If you watch here with me, you will see that some of the cars that come up on this on-ramp to get onto traffic, they actually cut across all 3 lanes of this highway. Right now, that's not really a problem because there's not a lot of traffic, but if this ever gets busy, that's going to cause things to back up because those cars trying to get on the highway are going to be blocking the lanes that other cars want to use. So what you can do is choose the lane connector, click on the node where this lane changing is happening, and you get these little colored pips. If you click on one of the colored pips, a little noodle gets attached to your mouse cursor, and you can take this noodle and you can connect it to other pips in the lanes on ahead on the road. And by connecting it, you are telling cars that they are only allowed to drive where that noodle lets them go. So the cars that are now coming onto this on-ramp, they must turn into that nearest lane. They can no longer go across all 3 lanes of traffic when they're getting on the highway. You can click on other pips and you can create other rules as well. So for example, I now have the 2 lanes that are continuing on using the 2 left lanes, so it leaves that near lane open for cars to get on the highway without causing a lot of problems. If you don't want to go through here and manually set up every single lane, let's say you've got a large road that has 6 to 8 lanes and you just don't want to have to go click, 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 click for every single one, this has got you figured out as well. All you have to do is click on the node that you want to set up and push Control S, and it will automatically set up the lanes to force the cars to stay in their own respective section. So I've brought you over to this little intersection that I've put together because I want to show you another really cool part of the Traffic Manager tool set. If you ever want to have lanes set up with specific turning allowances, Traffic Manager has you all set. If you click on the lane arrows button, you can choose a section of road and you can see that the left lane is allowing cars to turn left and go straight ahead. The right lane is allowing cars to go forward and turn right. In this particular intersection, I want to allow left lane traffic to have their own dedicated left turn. So I'm going to turn off the go ahead arrow, and that's going to require that all cars in the left lane turn left. The way the AI works in this game, that's actually going to allow things to move much smoother because the left turning cars won't cause traffic behind them to back up. If you wanted to set up an entire intersection to have dedicated turning lanes, all you have to do is hold down the control button, click in the middle of the intersection, and bam, everything is set up with its own dedicated turning lanes. Another tool that you have available in the Traffic Manager tool set is this one right here called the junction restriction. And that allows you to click on a junction and make any changes you want to what is allowed to happen here. For example, I could turn off all of the crosswalks at this junction if I wanted to, and now people will no longer go across. If I wanted to, I could say turn right on red is allowed. You can also set up parking using the parking tool and decide where you want to allow cars to stop. And you can also select different roads and decide what kind of traffic you want to allow in the different lanes. One of my favorite things that I use Traffic Manager for is setting up roundabouts quickly and efficiently. When you build a roundabout in the game, either manually or with a roundabout building mod, most of the time the roundabout is not set up properly. The crosswalks are not where they're supposed to be. The speed limits are not correct. There are no yield signs stopping the oncoming traffic from getting into the roundabout when they're not supposed to, and things just aren't quite right. It's a lot of trouble to have to go through and individually set up every single part of a roundabout, and so Traffic Manager has you good to go. All you got to do is come into Traffic Manager, open up the toolbox, and go to the priority signs section. This is a section that you can normally use to add stop signs or yield signs or give way signs, as they call them in the UK, to intersections to help direct the traffic. But on a roundabout, all you have to do is hold down the shift button, the control button, and then click on your roundabout, and voila, it automatically sets up everything that you need. You get the yield signs set up where they need to go, you have the intersections opened up so that the roundabout traffic can get through. And if I choose my lane connectors, you will see that it has gone through to the nodes where it can, and it has stopped the AI from randomly changing lanes in the middle of the intersection. And that is going to make everything go so much smoother, and it's going to save you so much time. I would recommend getting Traffic Manager just for the roundabout tool, even if you never use anything else. So number 2 on my list was Traffic Manager President Edition. So coming in at number 3 on mods that you don't want to miss in Cities Skylines is Fine Road Tools by Clyte45. This mod goes hand in hand with another one of Clyte45's mods known as Fine Road Anarchy. And I use these two mods together to put roads, pathways, and train tracks pretty much anywhere I want in any fashion that I want. Let's just quickly go through some of the features of Fine Road Tools. When you first install it, you will see a new icon appears under your road tabs. This little circle right here opens and closes the toolbox for Fine Road Tools. At the top, you will see elevation steps slider. What this does is it changes the increments at which you can raise and lower nodes when you're building things like overpasses or trying to tunnel down into the ground. So when you build a road, we all know that you can use the page up button and you can use the page down button to decide how high or how low this piece of road is going to be. Normally when you push page up and page down, it's going to increase and decrease by 1 meter, but if you use the slider here, you can change that increment by as much as you want. So now it's going up by 12 meters and going down by 12 meters at the same time. This is really useful when you're building overpasses and you already know how high you need to raise the road in order to clear whatever obstacle you're trying to get over. You can just set the slider to that height, and then you only have to push page up once to raise the road to get over the obstacle, and you only have to push page down once to drop back down to the ground level. Down here we have the modes. Now this is how you place the roads down. The first option here is the unmodded normal placement behavior. This is going to work just like the vanilla game. So you can see here on this little patch of ground that's going to be a quarry someday in my city of Odyssey. If I were to use the normal vanilla unmodded road placement behavior to try to cross this gap, I'm going to have all kinds of issues. It's going to build a suspension bridge, or if I put it in the wrong place, you're going to get this weird dipping into the road thing where it's trying to figure out what to do. Basically, it's just a huge mess, and trying to get this road exactly where I want it in the style that I want is going to be a royal pain in the backside. You have a tool here that's going to force the ground to follow the elevation of whatever road you're placing. And I can just quickly show you how that works. If I drag this road across the quarry, you'll see that the outline is actually following the ground. And when I click, it's going to raise up the ground to meet the level of the road. And depending on where you place that, it can get pretty high. This is a great way to cross small divots in the ground where you don't necessarily want to have an elevated road piece. You just want to fill in the dirt underneath it so that you can keep a nice, flat, normal road. And this is also a great way to keep things nice and flat. The cool part is when you erase the road with the bulldoze tool, it remembers what was underneath it, and it doesn't actually change the terrain of your map. The next one we have here is to force an elevated piece. This basically forces a causeway to be built. So if I was going across this thing, instead of building the suspension bridge style, it's going to build one of those. But this also means that if I'm going to build something on the flat ground, it's still going to use that elevated walkway piece. One of the cool things about this mod is the next one that I want to show you. The next one is forcing a bridge to be placed. So if a road that you're using has a bridge option, you can take this and it will basically force some kind of bridge to be built when you cross or when you're putting the road down. Even if you were to put it on a flat piece of ground, it's still going to force bridge sections. You can actually go back and use the upgrade tool to change any road that you've already put in to have bridge segments in it. And you can also take bridge segments and you can turn them back into causeways, and you can even force the ground to come up and meet your sections. Or if you really want to, you can go back to the vanilla mode, but the game doesn't really like that very much. The next thing we have down here is the straight slope tool, and basically this makes the road go straight from point A to point B when you're building a road instead of following the terrain. This is super useful for making tunnels. You can draw a road over a hill. You can upgrade it with the straight slope option. and it will put that road through the hill as a tunnel, perfectly flat, instead of as the vanilla version sometimes does, causing the road to rise and lower in the middle of the hill for some strange reason. Down here, you've got some different things that you can toggle on and off. You have what's called toggling road bending. This is super useful, and I'll show you how that works. So let's say you build a road. Normally in the game, if you wanted to have another road coming off of it to make like a Y junction, the vanilla version causes this curve to happen. And it's really annoying if you're trying to build an on-ramp or an off-ramp on the highway, or you just want to have some interesting road work in your city. Well, using this mod, if you click this little toggle and turn off road bending, now you're going to have access to all the straight road pieces you could ever want. This is an amazing thing to use, but you'll see that the space is already occupied because the vanilla game does not like trying to build this road on top of another. That's where the little hand-in-hand anarchy mod comes in. The reason you install Find Road Anarchy at the same time as Find Road Tools is because it gives you the ability to override this stuff. So down here you have a toggle for anarchy. You turn on Find Road Anarchy and now you can put this road anywhere you want. You can build a little Y intersection, and then you can come through later with some different mods and you can decorate that out and make it look like a really nice Y intersection, or you can use this to make a nice on-ramp or an off-ramp that's a little more realistic than the bendy, curvy ones. The anarchy thing also lets you put roads in really, really weird places. So I've got this cliff face here, and I want to put a road up the cliff face. So all I got to do is just drag a road and draw it up here using the anarchy, and there you go. The normal game would tell me that's too steep and it couldn't do it, but anarchy lets me build it. I don't know why you would want this, but you know, it's your city, you do what you want. And it can get really absurd. So you've got like basically a vertical cliff face here, and look at that. Hey, you want to go up to the upper city? There you go. Now you've got a road to do it. And like everything else, when you delete it, the game remembers what you had underneath and it doesn't actually change the terrain at all. The next toggle that you have here is toggling node snapping. So that basically turns off the game's natural tendency to try to snap your roads to a specific node when you're building. If you turn that off, it won't snap, and you can get a little bit more fine control over where you want to put things. And then the last one here is toggling road collision. And what that does is it allows you to build roads that don't create intersections. It puts one road on top of another. It's not super useful for building functional roads, but I find it very handy when I'm building walking paths. And I find that the walking path keeps snapping to the road next to me that I'm trying to work with. And I don't necessarily want people using the walking path in that way. So this is Find Road Tools. I use this every single day that I play this game, and I use it in every single build. It is a lifesaver. If you want to detail out a national park with amazing walking paths and like boardwalks and things like that, you are going to have this mod. So give it a go. You're not going to regret it. And now at number 4 on my list of mods that you do not want to miss in Cities Skylines, we come to Roundabout Builder by Splatt. This is a quick one. It doesn't take much to explain, so let's just get right into it. Roundabout Builder builds automatic roundabouts for you without you having to do it, and it can do it with any road that you have in your inventory. So the Roundabout Builder is up here in a little button, and basically it opens up with this little toolbox. You have the drop-down menu that allows you to choose what kind of road you want to use, and as you can see, I have a lot of roads in my inventory. You may have more, you may have less, it doesn't matter. If you have it, you can use it. One of the ones that I like to use the most for my roundabouts is this 3-lane road with no parking. And so you go ahead and click on it, and then you find an intersection that you have drawn. Anywhere 2 or more roads come together, you can put a roundabout there. So once you have found your intersection and you mouse over it, you will see this red circle. This is giving you a preview of where your roundabout is going to go. You can use the plus and minus buttons on your keyboard to make the roundabout bigger or smaller as much as you want. And if you'll notice there in the menu at the middle, it's telling you how much it's going to cost to build the roundabout. Because the mod doesn't give you free roads, it still wants to follow some of the game mechanics. You can also come over to this little window here where you can type in the exact radius that you would like to use for your roundabout. You have the choice to automatically level the terrain when you put the roundabout in. I like to use this because roundabouts can get really weird when you build them on a hill and you don't automatically level out your roads. And then if you remember before, we talked about Traffic Manager President Edition, and this mod works with that one in a really cool way. You can take all of those things that the Traffic Manager does for roundabouts, and you can automatically set them up when you build your roundabout initially. So we've got everything set up, we've got everything ready to go. You come over to your intersection and you click. Voila, we have a roundabout. Wasn't that easy? You're gonna love this mod. Check it out, Roundabout Builder by Splatt. Number 5 on our list of amazing mods that you don't want to miss is Building Themes by Bofumer. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, but hey, it's the internet and I did my best. I love this mod, and you must be asking yourself right now, Splat, why are we in this top-down view of this amazingly gorgeous suburban neighborhood? Well, I used Building Themes to put this together. The way Building Themes works is it allows you to create districts that have a very specific set of assets that are allowed to be built in this district. So you see here, we've got assets that I have chosen to create a suburban neighborhood here. If you come over here, we've got assets that we've chosen to create kind of a university neighborhood area. Up here in Mount Olympus, we have a theme that I have chosen specific skyscraper assets that I would like to have built in this area. So how does it work? I'm so glad you asked. Once you've painted in the district, all you have to do is open up the district menu and click on the themes button. Here you will see any themes that you have downloaded from the Steam Workshop or any themes that you have custom created and named yourself. If you click a checkbox next to that theme, then the district will only grow assets that are part of that collection. How do we know what assets are in the collection? Well, you go down here to your theme manager and you open that up, and inside the theme manager, this is where you get to manage all of the assets that you want as part of your theme. So for example, we're using the big suburb style with commercial. So I come down here to big suburb style with commercial. I go up to display only the included assets that I have put into this theme. And then I come over here and I can mouse over and it's going to show me all of the different assets that I have chosen to put into this theme. And you can put any asset you want into a theme. It doesn't matter if it's residential, commercial, tourism, anything, it can go into a theme. The only thing you want to pay attention to is that if you have a district that contains both like residential and commercial and industrial, you'll want to make sure that you include assets for all of those types of zoning in your theme. Because if you don't, then things will not grow because there simply aren't any assets for the game to use. That's why for Big Suburb Style here, I've taken the original Big Suburb Style, which only had residential zoning in it, and I created my own custom one where I came in and I selected some of the commercial assets that I wanted also have in this district. I then gave it a new name and I saved it, and now I can apply this to any district I want. The things that grow are going to follow that district land. You can also apply multiple themes to a district if you want. You can put as many themes as you would like into a single district, and it will take assets from all of those themes and combine them together. So have fun, go crazy, go nuts. It's an amazing mod, and I couldn't play this game without it. You're gonna love it. Give it a try. Number 6 on my list of mods that you don't want to miss for Cities Skylines is Extra Landscaping Tools by Bloody Penguin. I'm sure that some of you have a city like this where certain parts just don't have very high value. One of the best ways to raise land value in Cities Skylines is to add water features to your city. And this is a great way for me to show you what you can do with extra landscaping tools. I have here in front of me a little square of land that I want to turn into a pond to see if I can raise the surrounding property values. I'm going to use Extra Landscaping Tools to do this. When you first install Extra Landscaping Tools and you click on your Landscaping and Disasters tab, you're going to see a brand new window opening up here on the left. You now have a lot of control over the brush size and style that you want to use when you're manipulating the terrain. So if I was going to build a little pond here, I would choose a brush size that's roughly the right size for my piece of ground here. And I would choose a brush strength that's quite a bit lower, because a brush strength of 1 is going to cause my entire city in this area to plummet into the depths of the abyss. And I don't want that to happen. So I'm actually going to take this brush strength and pull it way back. I'm just going to use a regular round brush, and I'm just going to come in here with my Shift Terrain tool, and I'm going to right click, and I'm just going to drop the terrain down a little bit. Now, as you can see, even with a very low brush strength, that happened pretty quickly. So I'm going to bring it down just a little bit more, and then I'm going to choose my Soften Terrain tool, and I'm just going to go around, and I'm going to try to smooth this out a little bit. I'm going to take my Leveling Terrain, I'm going to drop the size of my brush down, I'm going to choose one of these spots in the middle, and then I'm just going to go through and kind of level this out to get it all nice and even. A little bit of smoothing, and we are going to be good to go. We've bulldozed the trees, we've smoothed out our depression, and now we're ready to add the water. This is another neat feature of extra landscaping tools, and that allows you to create customized water sources. This water source is going to cause water to magically appear wherever I decide to put it, and using extra landscaping tools, I can make my water capacity as big or as small as I want. Currently, as you can see, this water source is incredibly massive, and if I put this in like this, it's going to flood my city. So instead, I'm going to crank the capacity way down, and now it's about the right size for me to put into my pond. So I'm just going to click and add it into my pond, and now you can see I've got a water source on top of that part of the terrain. If you put your mouse on the water source, you're going to see part of the screen become shaded in with this white cloud-like layer. That is showing you how high the water level is going to be. So I just want to pull this back until it's about the right size for my pond, right about there. And then I'm going to turn on my time, and we're going to let the game run a little bit until this fills up. The water physics in this game are a little bit unusual, so you're going to have to fiddle with the water height just a little bit so you don't destroy your town. So as you can see, there's a little bit of water escaping out, a little bit of flooding happening, but nothing too terribly serious. I think I've got it just about right this time. And so now I have this wonderful little pond in the middle of my city, and I can start putting trees and stuff all around it. Put in some detailing, make it a park, and voila! You now have high property values in the area. So if you ever need to raise your property values, extra landscaping tools is a great way to do it. Another tool that you have using extra landscaping tools is being able to plant trees in a wide area using different styles of brushes. So as you can see over here in my brush options, I have all kinds of different brushes that I can pick that do different densities of placement. I can just do a circle, I can do these like scraggly looking brushes, and if I choose a tree out of my menu down here, I can go ahead and place these in all around an area automatically and quickly cycle through to create a forest. It's a handy little thing. You can do this with trees, you can do this with props, you can do it with tiles. It's a really nice way to decorate things out. So extra landscaping tools is an amazing tool that I like to use just to make my cities look more beautiful, and you should check it out too. Coming in at number 7 on this list of mods that you don't want to miss is UnifiedUI by Kian Zarin, available on the Steam Workshop. This is a very simple mod to explain. Up in the top left corner, I have this little circle, and when I click on this circle, it opens up and it shows me a bunch of icons that allow me to access different mods that I use throughout the game. It's a nice way to organize things, and I love using this little tiny mod to make my life so much easier. There are a bunch of mods up here that I am not necessarily going to be talking about in today's episode. I will be making an episode about them later, but for now, UnifiedUI is a great mod. Number 8 on my list of mods that you do not want to miss is Find It 2 by Sway, available on the Steam Workshop. This is a pretty simple mod to explain. Down at the bottom right, I have this little magnifying glass, and if I click on it, it allows me to look up things that I have in the game. Assets, buildings, whatever. If you want to find it, it's here. If you remember that maybe you picked up an asset for a grocery store and you can't remember where it is and you can't find it anywhere, you just come in here, you type in store, and it's going to bring up every single asset that you have available with store on it. Let's say there's a particular kind of road you're looking for that you can't remember where it's called. You want to find an asymmetric road. You can just start typing asymmetric, and look at that. All of the asymmetric roads in the game that you have are going to pop up here, and you can just click on them and use them. Over here on the left, you can sort by network, trees, growables, ploppables, crops, whatever. This is an amazing tool that comes in super handy to help you find things. I just wouldn't be able to play modded Cities Skylines as well as I do and enjoy it as much as I do if I didn't have this available to me. It saves me so much time. So go check it out. Find It 2 by Sway on the Steam Workshop. Number 9 on my list of mods that you do not want to miss in Cities Skylines is the Network Multitool by Mech Sergey. The Network Multitool I have up here in my UnifiedUI, and it's a tool that allows you to have immense control over roads, key walls, and pathways, as well as anything else that might involve nodes and segments. So really quick, you have the first 2 rows here, which add and remove nodes from a segment. So if I click on the add node segment, I can come into these roads and I can put in nodes anywhere that I want. And this is very useful, for example, if you have the Move It mod and you want a node to grab to be able to move things around, but you didn't have one there, you could just toss a node in. If you're using something like the node controller, you can click on the nodes that you've made and you can add things like crosswalks and and do all kinds of crazy stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. The minus button simply removes nodes, which is also kind of handy in case you have traffic problems, because the AI on the roadways treats nodes a little bit different than it does segments. And so sometimes I like to remove nodes when the traffic is getting bunched up by people changing lanes and things like that when they shouldn't. The next row, you have the union nodes mode, which basically allows you to take one node, click on another node, and it's going to bring them together. The next one that we have is called intersect segments mode, and basically this can take two segments that are overlapping each other but are not connected, and it will actually connect them together and add a node. This is really useful if you're using Anarchy and you happen to have your toggle road collision turned off and you draw a road on top of other ones. You can see that they don't actually connect together. Well, you can come back in here and you can grab this tool and you simply click and it puts everything together where it belongs. The next one's called the set slope mode, and I use this one quite a bit. Now, I did show you a sloping tool that comes with the Move It mod, but I prefer this one over that, as the control that you get seems to work just a little bit better for me. They both do an amazing job, but this one, you just come up here and you select nodes that are available. So once you have selected all of the nodes that you want to create a nice slope for, you just push enter, and it creates a nice even sloping pattern that goes up and down. Very, very useful. I love it. The next tool in our toolbox is called the Arrange at Line mode. I don't use this one as often as I should, and I think I should probably use it a little more regularly because it does a really amazing thing. If you have a road like this that you put in that you wished was more rounded, but you kind of screwed it up and now you have this polygon shape, what you can do is you can start clicking on nodes with this tool, and the game is going to interpret that shape and try to smooth it out into a nice, pretty curve. And you can see from this orange line what the game is deciding should happen. And depending on which nodes you click on, you're going to get a different kind of curve. So like in this case, I could go maybe this far and I could hit enter, and it's starting to make a nice curved shape. And then maybe I'll come from the other side and I'll click on a few nodes and I'll go this way, and I'll hit enter, and it's going to curve all this out. Now it's a little bit finicky depending on how many nodes you're selecting and where everything is going, so you're just going to want to play with it and see what works. If you were to click on all of these nodes, it's just going to create a straight line between the 2 points because there is no longer a curve involved. It's just going to straighten this thing out. Still, it's a very useful little tool, and I like the curves that it makes. The next tool is Arrange at Circle, and it does exactly what it says it does. It's going to arrange circles out of your roads. And basically what this tool allows me to do is create a roundabout on steroids. So I start clicking on nodes, and as long as the nodes make a somewhat closed shape, so it could be a rectangle, a hexagon, octagon, whatever, it's eventually going to realize that you have what could be made into a circle, and that shows that it's figured out what it's going to do. And once you click on it, it's showing you what it wants to do with the road, and you have all kinds of things you can do. You can actually move the circle around, you can change the size of it, you can drag points here and there, you can do all kinds of things, and when you're done, you just hit enter, and it's going to make a circle and keep everything connected like it's supposed to. The next tool we have is Create a Loop mode, and it does exactly what it says it's going to do. It is going to create a loop. So I'm going to click on this little node right here at the end. I'm going to click on the road node here. And then I'm going to decide, where do I want my loop to start and where do I want my loop to end? Of course, I don't want the loop to start here in the middle of the highway. So I'm going to click on this node over here, and it's going to move the loop that way. And I want my loop to actually meet up over here. So I'm going to click on this, and it's going to change the direction. And now that I have that loop put in, I have the option of moving all of this stuff around and making my loop bigger or making my loop smaller, and it's just a nice way to get fancy loops put in. These don't all have to be up in the air, but you build it in, and there you go. You now have a nice curly Q. This would be great for building highway overpasses. So the next tool that we have is called the Create Connection mode. And basically this is going to try to connect two segments using some kind of S curve. Basically the way it works is you click on a segment that you want your connection to start at, you click on the segment that you want it to end at, and then you choose which side of the segment do you want it to initiate from, and then which side of the segment do you want it to terminate at. You're going to get different kinds of loops and different kinds of circles. So the next one we have is called the Create Curve mode, and that's just a simpler version of what we just looked at. Pick a segment, pick another segment, choose where you want your curve to begin with, choose where you want the curve to end, and it's going to create a nice, beautiful curve to bring these two pieces together. The next one I want to talk about is create parallel mode. This allows you to select a series of nodes and segments, and the mod is going to mimic what you have selected in a parallel fashion right next to the ones that you have chosen. This is a really cool tool for adding walkways into your cities. As you can go into your tools, you can choose one of your path types. So let's just choose a park path. And we'll activate this mod, and then we'll come through here and we will begin choosing a series of nodes. And as you see, this pathway is getting put in right next to it. I can push the tab button and swap which side of the road it's going to create the parallel effect on. I can use plus and minus to adjust the offset of how far away it's going to build this parallel road. And I can use other buttons to bring it up higher, to create like an elevated walkway next to it, or even drop it down into the ground if I wanted to make like a tunnel. And then you just push enter, and now you have a parallel way. So that is Network Multitool. It is an amazing mod. It's a little finicky to get to know, but it's because it's so powerful that it's very easy to kind of mess things up. But once you get done playing with it and you learn all the little quirks about it, you can create some amazing detailing with this mod. I would highly recommend you pick it up. The last mod that we're going to talk about in our list of mods that you do not want to miss for Cities Skylines is the loading screen mod by Thale or Thale 5. This mod doesn't actually do anything while you're playing the game. It's not going to help you detail your city. It's not going to help you put down roads or anything like that. But what it does do is it makes loading the game with mods and with extra assets much easier and much faster. It's going to have a pretty good impact on your FPS as well, because it goes through and it optimizes things when you load the game. A lot of the assets that you have are going to share textures and things like that, and the loading screen mod goes through and kind of sorts all that out so that you're not loading things more than once, and that things that don't need to be loaded don't get loaded. If you were to open up the options, you would see another feature that is really amazing. This right here, reporting. If you turn this on, the loading mod is going to create a little file that it's going to store on your computer in whatever place you ask it to put it. When you open that little file, it's going to give you a full report of what happened when it tried to load your city. Anything that caused an error, like a missing texture or an asset that didn't load properly or anything like that, is going to show up in that report. That report comes with links that will automatically take you to the Steam workshop to find the things that did not load or the things that gave you errors, so you can either unsubscribe from it, you could subscribe to things that are missing, or you could try to troubleshoot what has gone wrong. And getting rid of all of those errors is going to cause the game to load faster, it's going to cause the game to run more smoothly, and I honestly wouldn't even try to play modded Cities Skylines if I didn't have the loading screen mod to help me get things going. I don't have an amazing system. My system is what I would consider average to above average, but with the loading screen mod, I'm actually able to get things to load up, and I can play the game with a solid 30 to 60 frames per second, depending on what I'm doing, even if I'm trying to record at the same time. So check out the loading screen mod. It is a lifesaver. Thank you for coming along with me with this little journey as we looked at 10 mods that you don't want to miss when playing Cities Skylines. This is not an exhaustive list of mods that I use by any means, and there's quite a few more that I make use of on a regular basis, but these were 10 that I chose out of my list that I thought were extremely important and were ones that you might want to give a look at to see if it can make your gameplay easier, more fun, and more efficient. If you found this useful, go ahead and hit that like button. If you have a mod that I didn't talk about that you love and use, put it in the comments down below and tell me. Maybe I use it, maybe I don't, and I'll learn something new and I could try it out. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, I'll catch y'all later.